so far we've just been talking about what are sometimes called one-place predicates, or simple properties, like is red, is yellow, is good, is fast, enjoys sailing. Actually, the last of those could be an example of what we're about to do. But imagine, first of all, there are relations like is older than. Suppose I wanted to say Joe is older than Anne. How would you do that? First of all, there are two subjects. There are two names involved. And the only way we can do it now is we would have to say one property is true of one of them and another property is true of the other. We could say Joe is old and Anne is young. But that doesn't really capture what we want. We want to say that Joe is older than Anne. You know, it could be only by a second. They could have just been born. They're twins that have just been born and Joe came out first. So it wouldn't be true to say that Joe is old. How do we deal with it? And, well, there are also cases of verbs that don't just have a subject. Every verb has a subject, like runs. Joe runs. That would be easy. We would do R for blank runs, and we do J for Joe, and it would just be that. That's easy. But then there are verbs that have not just a subject, they have an object too. I'll give you an example. Here's an example of a verb that just has a subject. Loves. So suppose we wanted to say Romeo loves. How would we do that? How would we symbolize Romeo loves?
LR.
Yeah. Big L, little r. Easy. But suppose we wanted to say Romeo loves Juliet. We're on a Shakespearean kick today. Would this do it? Would that say Romeo loves Juliet?
No.
What does that say?
Romeo loves and Juliet loves.
Why doesn't that capture the same information as Romeo loves Juliet?
Well, that just says that they're both experiencing something. It doesn't say that they're pointing toward each other about it.
Yeah.
That might be in love with Jose.
And actually, it doesn't say what we want to say, and it says something we don't want to say. Because if I say Romeo loves Juliet, what haven't I said? That Juliet loves him back. You know, we could have tragedy here. It's unrequited. So this says that Juliet loves, which we don't want to say. I mean, maybe she does, but that wasn't what the original said. And also, neither of these specify that they love each other. So that is an example of a verb that doesn't just have a subject, it has an object. How do we deal with that? Well, now we get to the reason why I've insisted on you saying the blanks. Because now we're going to deal with two blank predicates, or two place predicates. So what we want is a two-place predicate, which is blank loves blank. Okay? Now, so, the way now don't write this down, because it's wrong. You might assume that Romeo loves Juliet would look like that, with the Romeo coming before the loves. But no, the predicate always has to come first. So Romeo loves Juliet would have to be like that. What does this say?
Juliet loves Romeo.
Juliet loves Romeo. In other words, the order of these things matters. What comes first goes in the first blank. What comes second goes in the second blank. So the first one is the subject of the verb, the one doing the loving, and the second one is the object of the first one's affections. Okay, what does this say?
Romeo loves himself.
Romeo loves himself. Romeo is a narcissist. Okay, so far so easy. How would we say Romeo loves something? Well, first of all, we will have this. obviously, because there's loving going on and Romeo's doing it. But what comes after the R? Has to be a variable. Can't be a name because it's not a specific definite thing, it's something. So let's say X. But if we have a variable, what do we also have to have? A quantifier. Which quantifier? Existential. And it has to be up the front so that it has it in its scope. There you go. So, in other words, this would be, there exists something and Romeo loves it. Or Romeo loves something. Okay so far? Alright. What does this say?
Romeo loves everything.
Romeo loves everything. Romeo has no discrimination. He will just love anything. Alright, what does this say? Something loves Romeo. Good. Now, suppose we want to say Romeo loves someone. How is that going to be different from that? That's Romeo loves something. If we want to say Romeo loves someone, what's going to be the difference?
You have to define that thing as a person.
We have to specify that that thing is a person. How are we going to do that?
Big P, little X.
Finish it.
Parentheses around it, and existential little X.
That's right. There exists something, that thing is a person, and Romeo loves it, which is Romeo loves someone.
Why can't we make it conditional?
Because it's something. If this was a conditional, it would mean something, but it would mean something a little odd. This would mean there is something such that if it were a person, then Romeo would love it. That is actually true of this pen. Because it's true of this thing that if it were a person, Romeo would love it. It's not, but if it were, Romeo would love it. We want to instead say there really is someone, and Romeo loves it. Which is, of course, an I type, right? It ends up being an I type.
So if we say Romeo loves everyone, it will be a conditional.
Yes. In fact, what does this say? Be careful.
Everyone loves Romeo.
No, everyone loves Raymond.
Okay,
Yes. No, that's right. Everyone is for everything in the universe. If that thing is a person, then that thing loves Romeo, which is everyone loves Romeo. Yes. Okay. So far, so good. Not so hard, you think. All right, let's kick it up a notch. How would we say everything loves something? Well, obviously there's loving going on. What do we put immediately after the L in the subject position? A variable or a name? Variable, because it's everything. What do we put after that? In the
different variable.
A different variable. Finally, we need two variables. Okay, and where you've got variables, you have to have, everybody?
Quantifiers.
Everybody?
Quantifier.
Yes. Now, I said everything loves something. So, what is the quantifier that goes with the X?
Universal.
Universal, because X is in the subject position, doing the loving, and it's everything. Then what comes next? Existential
For the Y.
Y. There you go. That says everything loves something. Okay? Now, before we go any further, this is a little oddity that is worth pointing out. I'm not going to change anything. I'm not going to change the fact that x is universal and that y is existential. I'm not going to change the order. So x is universal and the subject, y is existential and the object. The only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to switch the position of the quantifiers. So y is still existential, x is still universal. I've just changed the order. Does that change the meaning?
Yes.
Yes, it does. Thank you, Don. Now hold on. Why? What does this say? This says everything loves something. This says there is something that everything loves. What's the difference? Somebody other than Don. What's the difference between saying everything loves something, which is probably true? Well, no, some people are dead. This pen doesn't love anything, but everything loves something, and there is something that everything loves. What's the difference? Yes, Brian.
So the first one, there could be any object, doesn't matter.
Right, you love pizza, I love lasagna, somebody else loves a burger.
Yeah.
Right, we all love something.
And then the second one is a single object that everyone loves.
Yes, so in this case, everybody could be loving different things. It's just that there is something that everybody loves, but it's not the same thing. Whereas this says there is some one thing, and everybody loves that one thing. You see the difference? Pretty groovy, huh? So order of quantifiers matters. All right. Now, how would we say everybody loves something? So instead of everything loves something, everybody. And here's where it gets tricky. Now, we'd still have LXY, because we're going to need variables. But what do we also have to say about X? Not just that it loves Y, but that it is a person, because we have said everybody. So, where do we say that? Well, we say it up here. And I'm just going to tell you, here's how you do it. The quantifiers have been separated. No longer are the quantifiers neatly up front. Why? That's just the way it is. So, what we are now saying is, for everything in the universe, if that thing is a person, then there exists something that the person loves. Okay. So that's, let's write that down, that's everyone loves something. How are we doing time-wise? Okay. Now, how would we say everyone loves some, you know what's coming next? How would we say that? What information do we have to add to this one?
Y is also a person.
Y is also a person. So where do you think that happens? Well, where would it have to happen? After what?
Existential Y.
Yes, because before, if it happened over here, you wouldn't know what Y was, because Y hasn't been introduced yet. So, the way it works is, first of all, we introduce X. Then we introduce Y, and we say Y is a person. And finally, here's where the relationship is settled between X and Y. Now, what you might notice, first of all, how many quantity words are there in this sentence? 2. What are they? Every and some. Okay. which of the 4 categorical propositions do you associate with the word every? A, E, I, or O? A type. So this tells you that there is an A type. Hey, guess what? This is the A type. That's what an A type looks like. All right, what type of categorical proposition do you associate with the word some? An I type. Oh, look. That's the I type. So the A type is the main thing because it comes first, and the I type is the lesser thing, but notice it's sort of nested within the A type. So when you get more than one quantity word, you've got more than one, unless you're just talking about things. If you're just talking about things, it's fairly simple. But if you're talking about anything other than things, like you're talking about persons, then you're going to have a categorical proposition. And here you have another categorical proposition that is going to be nested within the first one. Okay. How complicated can things get?
Well,
You don't want to
just
know.
like chain rules, so.
Well, let's see. Let me start the computer up again. If you go here, so you click on handouts. Incidentally, I've already posted the homework for this week, but it will not be due until Thursday. So we'll have another class to talk about this before you have to finish. But you can check it out. However, you click on handouts, and then you click on handouts for the course, and then you click on symbolizing with overlapping quantifiers. This one, we've already moved beyond that one. That one covers everything that you need to know in predicate logic. This just focuses on what we're learning today. And it's kind of a colorful, where is it? This is what it looks like. So it's a colorful handout. And what I'm telling you now is covered in detail in that one. We've got 5 minutes, don't stop packing up. All right, so the way to symbolize sentences like this. No one can please everybody all of the time. First stage, which I don't mention here, is actually you need to specify your predicates. So I call that step 0 or step a half. What are the predicates you need? First of all, if you see the word one, you know you're going to need what predicate? I'm going to have to do it. Yeah, or X is a person. You're going to need blank is a person. Okay, so if you see the word one, you know that there's going to be a person involved. What else? What are the other predicates you need? Unfortunately, something else that begins with P. Please. Let's use the word L for that. How many places in that predicate? Yes, that is actually a 3-place predicate. The first one is blank can please the second one. So this is the person doing the pleasing, this is the person being pleased. What is the third place? At a time. So it's blank can please blank at blank. That is a 3-place predicate. Don't worry, that's as far as we go, because we only have 3 variables, x, y, and z. We can only handle 3 places. It's not going to get more complicated than that. What else? We need one more predicate. Well, let's go as far as we can and see where we might need it. So, step 1, identify the quantity words. No, every, and all. That tells you there are how many categorical propositions involved? 3. What is the main one? A, E, I, or O? E. So you know what an E looks like. An E looks like first of all, there's going to be a conditional, and immediately after it, there's going to be a tilde. All right. Now, incidentally, what is the subject of this E type? It is no person. So we specify that X is a person. And then we have the conditional. And right at the end, we're going to have the pleasing or lack thereof. And we're going to have X first. So that's the A type. Although there's got to be two more variables attached there because it's a three-place one. All right. Next, we move on to the next categorical proposition, which is what type? An A type. What's going to be the variable involved here? Y, because we've already used X. And what kind of thing is Y? A person. So what that's going to look like is it's going to be universal because it's an A type. It's going to look like this, and we're going to specify what here? That Y is a person. Okay. Oh, and Y is the person being pleased or not being pleased, depending on what we're talking about. So we've already nested an A type within an E type, but there's one more to go. What type is this? It's another A type. What's the variable going to be? It's going to be Z. Okay, so we're going to say Z, and then we're going to add that. So make sure we've got 3 closed parentheses, and Z goes on the end here. What kind of thing is Z?
A point in time.
Right, Z all the time. So we're going to have, that tells us what our last predicate is. It's blank is a time. And we have to specify that Z is a time. So we say TZ. And then we have the conditional there because it's another A type. That is how you would deal with something like that. And this is what you would produce. Now, we'll try and see if it makes sense when we read it back. For everything in the universe, if that thing is a person, then it is not the case that for all people at all times, the first person pleases the second person. Is that saying the same thing as nobody pleases everybody all the time? You'll have to take my word for it. Let's just have a look and show that that's what we arrive at on the handout. Where is it? Yeah. So, here's the A type. Here's the E type. Here's the A type, and here's the last A type. And you smush them all together. And notice that the nested ones come after the main connective of the, or after the tilde if it's negative, of the ones that they're nested within. And this is what you end up with. Let's do practice quiz 14.6. Done. The mailman is afraid of my dog. So what we're going to do here is you're going to symbolize this whole thing, but first you're going to tell me any predicates and names that we need.
Okay, let's define the blank is afraid of my blank, or afraid of blank, as A.
A is blank is afraid of blank. Okay.
Lowercase m represents the mailman.
And why are you using a name for the mailman?
Because he's particular.
Yes, even though, of course, the mailman is not a name, logically it is, because names refer to single definite individual persons, places, or things. And the mailman is one of those.
And we can do the same thing with the lowercase d for my dog.
Right, again, what's your dog called? My dog. We don't think of my dog as a name normally, but logically it functions as one because it picks out a single individual. Okay, so put it all together.
A and D, exactly as it's written behind you.
What a coincidence. Yes. How did that happen? Right. So this says The mailman. So what goes in the first blank is afraid of what goes in the second blank. So in other words, what does this say?
My dog is afraid of the mailman.
My dog is afraid of the mailman ever since the mailman started bringing
That would be a
mace.
bit more accurate in my case.
Yeah, mailmen have to be tough. Mail people. What is it Bart says in that Simpsons episode? Female man. All right, number 2. Let's do that one. Jamie. What are you going to need names for?
Memphis, the St. Louis, and North.
Yes, so let's say little m for Memphis, little s for St. Louis. Been to Memphis, but I haven't been to St. Louis.
And then wouldn't it be S for blank is south of blank?
Yes, so that's a 2-place predicate. Blank is south of blank. And in fact, that's all you need. We're not going to define any other predicates. So, first of all, you have to say Memphis is south of St. Louis. How are you going to say that?
S.
Big S or little?
Big S.
Big S.
And then little m and little s.
Right. And then you have an ampersand, and you say, we missed out, we got one more name, haven't we? N is Narlands. How are you going to say, what's that?
Would you need another predicate?
No, you don't need another predicate.
Would it be improper if you did use another one?
No,
Okay.
but I'm not going to let you.
Okay. Fair enough.
Fair enough. Why don't you need another predicate?
Because north and south are opposites.
Because
One
north
or the
and
other,
south are
then
opposites.
the
That's
opposite's
right.
good.
So how are you going to do Memphis is north of New Orleans?
So then that would be capital S and then
Yes.
NS?
That's exactly not quite right.
Oh, SN?
SN, what comes next? We're still talking about Memphis.
Oh. Then M.
M. Yes, so in other words, Memphis is south of St. Louis, and New Orleans is south of Memphis, which is another way of saying Memphis is north of New Orleans. All right. Let's skip over number 3 because I'm bored of talking about cities in the mid and deep south. Actually, no. Is Louisiana the deep south, or is it just its own thing? Well, I don't care. So let's move on to number 4. Now, Brandy, I'm going to ask you to do something easier than this first. And the something easier I want you to do is I have the dream. This says I have a dream, but I want you to do I have the dream. You know, the dream where I'm being chased by a giant chicken.
Okay. I, you need another I.
Yes, so it's a little I is I. It's a name. Okay, this is number 4.
And, D for is having a dream,
No.
or H for having.
Little d, because it's a name, what does that stand for? What does that stand for? The dream. So we've got I, we've got the dream. What do we need? What's the glue? Right. So what is have? What kind of thing is it? Right? And the way we deal with verbs is to make them into predicates. So H is what kind of predicate?
Capitalized, but it's a.
Predicate.
I thought you were supposed to. Okay, never mind, okay.
What kind of predicate is it?
Two places.
A two-place predicate. In other words, there are two blanks. So it's blank has blank. Now, why am I saying has when it says have? Well, logic is a simplified version of a natural language, and it can't do a lot of the things that natural language does. People are perpetually trying to improve logic and add features to logic. We've already seen one example. We've added predicates to logic. And that actually was an innovation invented in the late 19th century. Logic had been around, since the ancient Greeks, but predicates were invented by a guy called Gottlob Frege in the late 19th century. And there are various forms of logic that attempt to add extra features so that it can deal with more things that normal language can. But the kind of logic we're learning doesn't care about tenses. So as far as logic is concerned, there's no difference between I have a dream, I had a dream, I will have a dream. They're all the same. They're just expressing, all that logic does is express some kind of tenseless relation. All right, so that's all you need. How do you say I have the dream?
Capital H, little I, little b.
Good. Now, Brandy, let's make it more complicated. What's more complicated about saying I have a dream? Why is that more complicated than I have the dream?
You're talking about a specific dream?
This one is talking about a specific dream, but a dream is non-specific. And because it's non-specific, that means what? It means I can't use what kind of thing?
Can't use that, can't use a variable?
Yes, I can't use a name if it's non-specific. And if you're not using a name, the only other thing you can use is a variable. So it's going to be something like this. I had X. But I can't leave it like that for two reasons. What is one reason why I can't just write this?
Outside the scope of the quantifier.
Right, the golden rule of variables is they've got to have a quantifier. Because it's, now, what is the quantity word in that sentence? I have a dream. It's the co-shortest word in it. A. What quantity is that? All or some? Some. Yes, I don't have every dream in the universe. That would be hard to have. So it's some. So what quantifier am I going to use?
Capital E, little x.
Or
Existential.
existential. Now, if I left it like that, that means something. What does it mean?
I have something.
I have something. But let's be more specific. What is it that I have? A dream. Now to say I have a dream, I'm going to need another predicate. And the predicate, because it's a predicate, it's a capital letter and it's blank, is a dream. So, finish this off.
And capital D, little x.
I'm actually going to put it before, although of course it doesn't matter because of commutation. So basically what it says is there exists at least one thing, because that's what the existential quantifier means. That thing is a dream, and I have it. Good thing Martin Luther King didn't talk like that. It would have been half as moving. Yes, but that's, so what we're doing in this symbolizing business is essentially we're translating between natural language, in this case English, because that's the only language I'm fluent in, and this simpler, more formal language of predicate logic. Now, predicate logic has has a kind of clumsy way of dealing with things. It just talks about things and their properties. The things can either be names or variables. When we say, here's one of the odd effects of translating into predicate logic. What would you say was the subject of that sentence, I have a dream? Who would you say is the subject? I. But in predicate logic, the sort of subject that you're most concerned with is going to be whatever it is that the quantifier applies to. And what does the quantifier apply to in this case? the dream, because that's the one with the quantity, a dream. So basically, when you look at a sentence like this and you're thinking of turning it into predicate logic, you look for the quantity word. The quantity word is the most important one. So because that applies to the dream, instead of thinking of I first, you think of, well, what is the quantity? It's a dream. So I have to say, there exists at least one thing, and it's a dream. So you're dealing with the dream first. And only later do you say, oh, a feature of this dream is that I have it. You don't really think of I as the subject. So, in effect, what type of categorical proposition is this? A, E, I, or O? It's an I type. It's an I type. Which you wouldn't be immediately obvious when you look at a sentence beginning, well actually it begins with the word I, but that's a coincidence. Alright, so, and that'll prepare us, this discussion will prepare us for number 5. See it? Well, I'll write it out for you. Peggy married some guy from Duluth. Where's Duluth?
Minnesota.
Minnesota, that's right. It's on Lake, is it Superior? No. Is it? Yeah, it's dang cold anyway. Don't go there. I've been there, and Bob Dylan was born there. The people who are showing me around showed me his house. Looks like a house. So now you don't need to go to Duluth. All right. First of all, we need the raw materials, the predicates and the names.
I have a small p. Okay.
Yes, Peggy is a name. We're going to need one other name.
Small d.
Small d for
Duluth.
Duluth. That's right.
And capital N. Married some guy.
No. Blank married blank. If we were only doing one place predicates as we used to do, that's how we do it. Blank married some guy. But now we want to be more flexible. We want to be able to use this in more than one context. So clearly the predicate married some guy from Duluth is a very specialized predicate. It wouldn't be very useful. Whereas married is very useful. It's much more flexible. So that's what we're going to use.
We need a quantifier.
Wait a minute. We're not finished with our predicates. We need one more two-place predicate, and we need one one-place predicate.
Capital G. Blank is a one.
That's right. That's the one-place predicate. Now the two-place predicate is going to be F. For what?
Blank is from blank.
Very good. Now, that's a lot of stuff to put together. But don't overcomplicate this. We can work out that this is actually one of the 4 basic types of categorical proposition. Which? It's an I type. How do you know?
Plus some.
Because of the quantity word. So, you know that it's an I type, so it's going to look the way that we know I types look. It's going to be existential quantifier, and there's going to be an and involved. In fact, there's going to be more than one and, but at least one and. That's going to be the main connector. And right here, you fill in the details about what the sum applies to. So, sum applies to what? Well, just in words before you symbolize it.
A guy from Duluth.
Okay, so there exists something, and you've got to specify that that thing is a guy and is from Duluth. How are you going to do that?
So capital G small x.
Right? So now that thing is a guy.
And capital X small x.
Wait a minute. F is a, so we said that X is from, and we need something for the second blank.
D.
Small d, because F, and then we put parentheses around that. Yes, that's good. So there is something, it's a guy, and it's from Duluth. And now we say, what happened to it? What did happen to it? Peggy married it.
capital M, small p, and then
No? You need another little letter.
little.
Yes. You've got Peggy married this thing, which is X. Right? So in other words, you've specified what X is, and then you said that Peggy married X. Right? So there is this thing. What do we know about this thing? It's a guy. What else do we know about this thing? It's from Duluth. And Peggy married it. Okay? That's how you would say, Peggy married some guy from Duluth. This is how you would say it in logic keys. There exists at least one thing. It's a guy, it's from Duluth, and Peggy married it. Clearly you don't like this guy.
So we don't need to discuss the G or F again.
No, because we've already said that X is a guy. That's where the guyness comes in. Yeah? So you can sort of think of it backwards. You can say, okay, Peggy married someone. Now, but because it's some guy, you can't use a name. If it was Peggy married Joe, Peggy married Joe would just be this, right? But because Peggy married some guy from Duluth, you know that it's going to be a quantity. It's not a definite individual, so you're going to have to use a variable. So it's Peggy married X. And then you have to specify exactly what X is. Well, it's some guy from Duluth. That's what we do here. But because the predicate applies to the some guy from Duluth, we do that first. So you look for the quantity word, and you work out what it applies to, and then you define that before you even get to Peggy. Or, Samantha, Mary. So Mary had a little lamb. What's the next line? Its fleece was white as snow. No. Mary is the only name. Why aren't you going to use a name for a little lamb? Because of what word? No, not little. What word means a? That's right. Because it's a little lamb. It's not, if it was Mary had the little lamb, then you could use a name. But because it's a little lamb, you have to use a variable. So, you're going to need 3 predicates. 2 one-place predicates and 1 two-place predicate. What are they? Or blank had blank, yes. So let's say H for blank. I'm going to say has just to keep things in the present tense. Okay, so that's the two-place predicate. Well, what is it that Mary has? Okay, so there's 2 features there. What are they? You can use L for one of them, but not for both. What's that? Now we've got that. Mary had a, let's say, L for lamb and T for little. Okay? So, you're going to be saying that Mary had something, right? But before you even get to that, that's going to be at the end. You're going to specify what that thing is. Now, first of all, how many are we talking about? When we're talking about a little lamb, is it all or some? Okay, so what quantifier? Existential. Okay, so this says, now that means something. If I just left it like that and moved that over, that would say Mary had something. But we want to say what the something is. What do we know about X? We know 2 things about X. It is little. I used T for little because I used L. It's little, and what else is it? It's a lamb. And Mary has it, so I'm going to put parentheses around there, and then I have to make sure I've got parentheses around the whole thing. So let's spread that out neatly. So there exists at least one thing. It's little, and it's a lamb, and Mary had it. That's Mary had a little lamb. Okay? All right. Yes, Sam.
So is lamb a noun, or we need to do lamb as a
Lamb is, now we think of lamb as a noun, but in predicate logic, it becomes a property. Because, well, you can think of predicates either as properties or as kinds of thing. So individual things are just individual things. This is a thing. But then you say, what kind of thing is it? It's a bottle. So I could say it has the property of being a bottle. So the predicate would be blank is a bottle. Now it has other properties, like it contains water. So I could say blank contains water. But even the kind of thing it is, which we normally think of as a noun, gets treated as a property here. Because that's the difference between names and variables. With names, the kind of thing it is can be built into it. So if it's, I don't know, the dream, the dreaminess is built into the D. So I had the dream is like that, as we said. So I don't have to specify that this is a dream by adding that as a predicate, because it's built into the name. But when you're using a variable, variables don't have anything built into them. They're just things. So to say that it's a dream, I have to add that information as well. So names, if I say I have the dream, I don't need the predicate dream. But if I say I had a dream, because I'm now using a variable, that would just be a thing, so I have to add the feature that it is a dream as well. That's why it complicates things.
I think it's because, well, you didn't put blank is a lamb, so you just put lamb.
Oh yeah, why did I do that? Blank is a, blank is little. Thank you. Yeah, I don't know why I did that. What a dumbass. All right. Number 7. This is slightly different, Jordan.
If there were no evil, there would be no good.
Yes, this is sometimes claimed. This is actually an example of what is called a theodicy. A theodicy is an attempt to solve the problem of evil, which is why is there evil if God is good? We talk about these a lot in philosophy of religion. Now, first thing to point out. This whole thing is not a categorical proposition. This, if you had to say what kind of proposition this whole thing is, what would you say?
Conditional.
What's that? Well, it contains an E, but the whole thing is a
Conditional.
conditional. Because the first word of the whole thing is if. So, you know, the main connective of that is going to be the conditional. Now, what is the antecedent of this conditional? It's everything between the if and the then, which is what? Okay, now that is an E-type. There's no evil. Or it's not even, no, it's not even an E-type because there's only one predicate. But here's the predicates, let's see, number 7. So if there were no evil, there would be no good. So we're going to need E for blank is evil. And G for blank is good. All right, so we're going to have a conditional whose antecedent is there's no evil. Now there is 2 ways you can say this. There are 2 ways to say there's no evil.
I just put universal address. Till the
And that's one of the 2 ways. Yes. That says, for everything in the universe, it's not evil, which is another way of saying there's no evil, because everything in the universe is not evil. Okay, so if there were no evil, then, And remember, you don't have to worry about tenses.
I just said the exact same thing.
Well, not
Just
quite.
with the G.
Yes. And you're right. So don't sound so scared. That's exactly right. So if there were no evil, if there now were no is a particular tense. What is that? Subjunctive or something? I don't know. You don't know. Let's not confuse ourselves. But you just think of evil existing. So does evil exist? No. Nothing is evil, this says. If nothing is evil, then nothing is good. That is actually called not the contrast, the counterpart theodicy. And it's total bullshit, but anyway. What is another way of saying there's no evil? And this will be relevant to when we come to quantify negation later in the class.
Some could exist, not the case.
What's that?
Some could exist and some could exist.
Now, I want to say, so I'm going to ignore the rest of it. I'm just going to say, what is another way of saying there is no evil?
It
Yes.
is not the case that there exists something that is evil.
Exactly. Because this says, what does this say?
Something is evil.
Something is evil. So if there is no evil, then it's not the case that something is evil. These two are equivalent. They are logically equivalent by your 11th rule of equivalence, also known as quantifying negation, which we will get to shortly. But they mean the same thing. You can use them interchangeably. How we do this? Okay. Let's do number 10. Eric, let's do number 10. Do you have your book?
Yes.
Good. Please read it.
Wonder Cure products are available at all drugstores.
Wonder Cure products are available at all drugstores. Rush there now. All right, give me the raw materials. First of all, you will need one name. What name will you need?
Wonder Cure.
Yes, so little w is Wonder Cure.
Big A of you is available.
What's that?
Big A available.
Give me blanks.
Oh,
I'll start you off. Blank.
available.
Blank is available. Keep going.
Blank.
At
At.
blank. You're a little too keen with the blanks. You miss out the other words. Yes. So A stands for blank is available at blank. That is a relationship. All right. What else do we need? We're going to need another two-place predicate and one one-place predicate.
Big P products. So blank products.
Blank is a product. Finish that.
Blank.
Oh, blank. It's good that you're saying the blanks, but you are allowed to say other things too. So P is blank is a product of blank. And what is the one place predicate we need?
Blank at all drugstores.
No.
Or all drugstores.
Now, why is all not part of a predicate?
All is a quantity word.
All is a quantity word, so we're going to symbolize all using a quantifier. It doesn't come built into the predicate. You will, now you're giving me too many words. Obviously, I'm just steering you wrong. So blank is a drugstore. That is the one place predicate we need. All right. What is the quantity word in this sentence?
All.
All. However, there is another implied quantity word. What is the implied quantity word?
Some.
No, not some. It's also all, but where does it come? Before the Wondercure products, that's right. Because it's Wondercure products, plural. So clearly there's some quantity, and which quantity is the implied one? I'm going to say it's all. All Wondercure products. I guess you could say some Wondercure products, but we're going to say all. It's actually unclear, but all will do for now. So, what this is saying is all Wondercure products are available at all drugstores. So here is an example of when we're going to need two quantifiers. This is what we did last time. So let's recap. When you're faced with something like this, where you're going to need more than one quantifier, first of all, you work out what the quantity words are. And in this case, it's all in both cases, and there's two of them. Then you assign a type of categorical proposition to each of the words. What type are both of them? A-type. So this is an A-type, and this is an A-type. So, what that means is, you're going to have, the main thing is going to be an A-type. And we know what that looks like. It looks like that. It's got a universal quantifier, and the main connective within its scope is a conditional. And before the conditional, you specify what that all, which is the first all, refers to. What does it refer to? All what? Wondercure products. So how do you say that X is a Wondercure product? Almost, because that says Wondercure is a product of X. What did you do wrong?
Did I switch the X in?
Yes. So what you should say is
PXW.
yes. For everything in the universe, if that thing is a product of Wondercure, then all right. Now, after the main connective of this first A-type, you introduce the second A-type. I'll do it in a different color, just to make things extra clear. And so that's also an A-type. So I'm going to need another universal quantifier. But what's going to be different about it? Different variable. So let's use Y. But that is also going to be an A-type. So it's going to look like that. What comes before the main connective is specifying what this second all refers to. What does the second all refer to? Drugstore. So how do we say that? Yes, DUI. And finally, at the end, within the scope of both quantifiers, comes the relationship. What is the relationship of Wondercure products and drugstores? It's a relationship of availability. What is available at what?
Wondercure products is available at all drugstores.
Right. So we say A for is available. Which variable represents the Wondercure products? X. Which variable represents the drugstores? Y. So for everything in the universe, if that thing is a product of Wondercure, then for all drugstores, for all things that are drugstores, the first thing is available at the second thing. That's how that comes out. Okay? So notice, it's two A-types. The second A-type is talking about all the drugstores. The first A-type is talking about all the Wondercure products. All right, let's do number 11. Destiny.
Rap and
Yeah, rap and heavy metal music are disturbing to some people. Squares, that's who. All right, let's define our predicates. We don't have any names in this, we just have predicates.
blank is
D would be blank is disturbing
Is it better than?
yes, is disturbing to blank. Because that's what it says. It's expressing a relationship between the music and the people. The music is disturbing to the people. So it has to be a two-place predicate. What are some? Now we just need 3 one-place predicates.
R.
R is blank is rap music.
H.
Is blank is heavy metal music. Blank is heavy metal music. And finally, one that crops up a lot. Every time we say things like everyone and no one, we use this predicate. Begins with P.
Oh,
People. People who need people. We need people. Or I say in the singular because we're only ever talking about one thing at a time. All right. Now, so rap and heavy metal music are available, are disturbing to some people. What is the explicit quantity word in that sentence? Some. So what's the categorical proposition type that that's associated with? I type. However, there is an unstated quantity word, again, at the front. How much rap and heavy metal music is disturbing to some people? All. It's because it's, you know, now it's true that rap and heavy metal music is not all music, but all of the stuff that is rap music and all of the stuff that is heavy metal music is disturbing to some people, right? Okay, so what's the categorical proposition associated with all? A type. So, this one is going to be an A type. The main thing is going to be an A type with the conditional there. And then immediately after that is going to be an I type. So this is the sum, and this is the all. Oh, and here goes what the, before the connective in the A type, goes what the all is talking about. All what?
Rap. So R, X, and H.
Now, before we go on any further, what does this actually say? For everything in the universe, if that thing is what?
Rap. And heavy.
Are we saying what we want to say? What are we talking about here?
Particular sort of music.
Yeah, we're talking about music that is both rap and heavy metal. Now, there are examples of this, not usually good, although I do like the Run DMC Aerosmith crossover. Well, Aerosmith isn't heavy metal. Actually, there was Anthrax did something with Public Enemy a long time ago. And who knows who Ice-T is? Not Ice Cube. Ice-T. Ice Cube is in family movies, and Ice Cube is in family music, and Ice-T is in. Wasn't he a cop on a TV show?
No, Law and Order.
Law and Order, that's right. And what's ironic about that is that when I remember in the 90s, he was getting into trouble for a song he wrote called Cop Killer. And he wrote it, it wasn't one of his rap songs, it was for this group that he formed called Body Count, which was a thrash metal group. Can you imagine that? Look it up on YouTube. Ice-T fronting a thrash metal group called Body Count. And the best part of it was,
I'm not sure.
the lyrics to that song, I saw them being read on TV by Charlton Heston, because who used to be he used to be a representative for the NRA, but he was objecting to this. He was objecting to this, saying this music was bad. And so imagine Charlton Heston reading, "I got my sawn off, gonna bust some shots off, gonna dust some cops off." It was great. I'm sure it's on YouTube somewhere. Anyway, so that would be rap and heavy metal. But that's not what we want to talk about. We want to talk about for everything if what? If it is rap or it's heavy metal. Do you remember we did one like this last time with the Dobermans and the German Shepherds? We didn't want to talk about things that were both Dobermans and German Shepherds. We wanted to say or. So that's a tricky one. Even though it says rap and heavy metal, and you think, well, the word and is going to be ampersand. If you think about what we want to say, we're talking about a thing. We want that thing to be either rap or heavy metal. We don't want it to be both at the same time. Okay, so for everything in the universe, if it's rap or heavy metal, then there exists something. What is the thing that the sum refers to? What does the sum refer to in this sentence? People. So how do we say Y is a people? P1. And then we have the main connective for an I type, which is what? Ampersand. And then we specify the relationship, which will be the two-place predicate. Yes. What is disturbing to what? What is the thing that is disturbing that comes first? Yes, because we have defined, the thing that is disturbing is the thing that is rap or heavy metal, which we've said X is. And the things that are disturbed are the people, and we've said that Y are the people. Does that make sense? Okay, so, for everything in the universe, if that thing is rap music or it's heavy metal music, then there exists some things that are people, and the music is disturbing to them. That's how you say that in logic ease. Yeah, number 12. Right.
Every senior is older than every freshman. So blank is older than.
Blank is older than. What's the next thing? What's that?
Blank.
Yes, so that's the two-place predicate, the relationship.
Little s for senior.
No!
No?
We're not going to use a name. Why not?
Oh yeah, it's like a variable.
Yes, it's every senior. So S has to be yes, capital S, because it's a predicate, and it's what?
Blank is a senior.
Yes, blank is a senior.
And then big F for blank is a freshman.
Good. Now, how many quantity words are there in this sentence?
2.
2. And they're both?
I types.
What did you say?
I.
What did you say?
Oh no, it's A type.
Yes, your A's sound like I's. So they're both A types.
Here.
So, how are we going to do that?
You're going to say if you're a senior.
Well,
so,
what do we start with?
Universal quantifier.
Okay. That's the first every. Every what?
Senior.
So,
Big S. Little x.
then we have the conditional associated with it, and then we introduce the new next quantifier.
Then y for
Let me open parentheses for that.
so f sub y. Then O xy.
Which is what freshmen need on their face. Never mind. What do I need to do?
Close parentheses.
How many?
2.
There you go, that's right. So for everything in the universe, if that thing is a senior, then for all things that are freshmen, the first thing is older than the second thing. Yes, so this is the second A type that's talking about all the freshmen. This is the first A type, which is talking about all the seniors. Yeah, let's do number 13 just because we've got all the predicates already, so we don't need to waste time. some freshman is older than any senior.
So you have the existential quantifier,
What variable should we use?
x,
Okay.
and you have fx, then
Why am I pausing?
because it's an I type, so it should be and.
Very good.
Then you have universal variables of y. And there's sy, then over ys.
The seniors are still older than the freshmen in this
Oh,
scenario.
sorry.
Oh, XY, that's right. One more thing I have to do.
No, yeah, parentheses around.
Yes?
After the first quantifier and then at the end.
That's right. Good. Let's see.
Should we do
23? No. I hate 23. Let's do 24 instead. 24 will involve how many quantifiers, Nick? If only. If only it were that simple. First of all, though, let's define our predicates. Because it says no one, what is the concealed predicate?
Blank one.
No. P. For blank
Nope.
is a
A person.
person. Yes, whenever you see no one or everyone, you're talking about people, so you're going to need that. All right, what else are we going to need? We're going to need a 3-place predicate, God help us, and another 1-placer. In fact, actually, we did this one because it's on the sheet, the handout, but let's do it again.
Blank and blank.
Blank, blank, and blankety, blank, blank. Blank can please, I can't use P again, which is why I'm using L. Blank,
All of the blank.
no, not all of, because we don't want to build a quantity word into our predicate. We're going to specify the quantity. It's just going to be at blank. And then what's the 1-place predicate we need? Well,
Of the time.
oh, blank is a time, yes. All right. So what are the quantity words? First quantity word. You don't have to go far to run into it.
No.
No. That's what type?
E.
E-type. Now, what does an E-type look like? What's the quantifier?
No.
What's the quantifier? Universal or existential? Unexistential. No. that weird hermaphroditic quantifier. No, it is universal. Now, if it's universal, you use for A and E types. What's the difference between A and E types?
E is has a
Squiggle.
yeah.
A tilde. Yes. And what is important to know is that that always shows up immediately after the conditional. So there it is. So that's our E type. Okay. Oh, and and before the main connective, we specify what the no refers to. No. One. So how do we say that? What is X?
X. PX.
Yes. All right. So that's no one. Now, what is the next quantity word?
All.
Okay. So what type is that? A, E, I, or O?
A.
A. So what's the quantifier? No, wait a minute. No one complete. All is the third quantity word. What's the second quantity word?
Everyone?
Yes. So that's still an A type. So the quantifier is universal, but what's the difference?
It's,
What do I put in the parentheses? Not X,
why?
Y. I have to use a different variable because we're within the scope of this one. So, but that's going to be another A type. So we're going to have another conditional, like that. Now, every what?
So would that be P1?
Yes, because it's every one. So it's Y is also a person. And then finally, what is the last quantity word? You've already mentioned it.
All.
All. So that is what type again?
A.
A type. So what's the quantifier?
That'd be X, or Z.
Z. That's right. We need a third one. Now, all of the what?
All the time, so TZ.
TZ. That's right. And then because it's an A type, what's the connective? Then. And then finally, right here, is where it all comes together, where the three-place relationship is specified.
So that'd be L,
Who's doing or not doing the pleasing?
X,
X. Who is not being pleased?
Y,
And at what?
Z.
Z. Now, you say, well, wait a minute. This seems to say that there's pleasing happening, but it says no one can please anyone. But that's been dealt with because there is a negation, but it's just up here. So that is, no one can please everyone all the time. 3 overlapping quantifiers.